All right, we're checking in. It is going to be a very interesting morning, ladies and gentlemen. There is news that's breaking right now. There's things going on. The Chinese were absolutely right. May we live in interesting times. Good morning to you. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome, as always, to Front Porch Brunch, our review of items in the news, both current and from the previous week. We are so glad you're back this morning. I am telling you what, we are loaded. Oh my God. If I could show you right now the string of tabs that I have across the top of my other monitor, you would think I was absolutely crazy. But then again, that's what's going on in the world right now. The news is crazy. It is absolutely, everything is breaking fast and furious. There's stuff to talk about. It's just absolutely wild, totally wild. So, yeah, it's going to be an amazing morning. We're glad to have you here. And just checking to make sure everything's working right the way it should. Give me a second here, folks. Checking on something else, making sure it's working right. We shall see. Okay, hopefully. Come on, Rumble. You're worrying me over there. Scaring me to death. You better be working right. That's all I'm saying. There we go. Okay, Rumble's up. All right, that's good. Oh, sorry about that, folks. Sorry indeed. It's just crazy. All right. Who is out here this morning so far? Oh, good morning, my dear. Mwah. Love you. So glad you're here this morning, Miss Leah. I'm telling you what, if we don't have a bunch of people in here, I feel like they're going to be missing out. And I'm not saying to put pressure on you. It's just, we've got that much stuff going on in the news right now. And God, have we got so much to talk about. It is just absolutely crazy. So for those of you who are just joining, be it on Rumble, be it on Twitter, be it wherever, my name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. Welcome, as always, to Front Porch Brunch, our Saturday morning review of items in the news. And there's stuff going on everywhere in the world, not just the U.S., the world. Like you, I woke up this morning to some headlines that make me very sad and scare me all at the same time. And just, I don't quite know what to make of all of it. So yeah, we'll take a look at a lot of that. Okay. For everybody who's in here so far, do me a favor. If your college, what time does your college football team play today? And what time and who are they playing? So drop it in the chat. I'll go ahead and tell you. My guys are playing at 2:00 this afternoon. It's down at we're down at North Carolina State, so that's going to be a pretty good game, I think. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, if you're out there, it's Saturday morning. That means 2.5 hours to kick off, or 2 hours to kick off, or an hour and a half, depending on which game you got. So yeah, if you're out there this morning, drop it in chat and let us know. All right, who you guys playing? Oh, okay, so you got the bye week. Okay, all right, well, that's cool. The cadets need their week off too. That's all right. So yeah, nothing wrong with that. So yeah, if you're out there, let's hear from you. Let's hear from you everywhere in the world right now. So let's see what everybody's got going on. We woke up this morning, and I had planned on starting this session of Front Porch Brunch with mostly domestic news items, but something is breaking around the world, and it's got the potential to shake up a lot of different things. So I want to start from there and give you this headline straight out of Breitbart. Hamas militant group has started a war that, quote, Israel will win, defense minister says. Article written by, so this is from the Associated Press. I apologize. Jerusalem. Israel's defense minister announced that the Hamas militant group has started a war against Israel and pledged that, quote, Israel will win. Following a cabinet meeting at the Israeli military headquarters in Tel Aviv, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant warned that Hamas made a grave mistake in launching barrages of rockets into southern and central Israel in its surprise morning attack. In one of the most serious escalations in years between Israel and the militant group that rules Gaza, Hamas gunmen crossed the border fence at several places and infiltrated Israeli communities. Quote, the state of Israel will win this war. This is breaking news update. AP's story follows earlier. The Times of Israel reports Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gives his first public statement on the massive attack by the Hamas terror group, saying the country is at war. Quote, citizens of Israel, we are at war and we will win. The enemy will pay a price like they have never known before, he says in his first public statement on the matter, some 5 hours since the start of the assault by the Gaza-based terror group. There are reports of a number of dead and nearly 300 wounded as terrorists infiltrate a number of southern towns, and thousands of rockets are fired at the center and the south of the country. Oh my gosh. There was a brief respite that we as the United States and the world had by and large from war. And now all that is just up in flames, gone. So I want to pop over to the Associated Press because they've got a live ticker on this thing. And this is how it all started this morning. They had their first post at around 7:55 a.m. The militant Hamas rulers of the Gaza Strip have carried out an unprecedented multi-front attack on Israel, firing thousands of rockets as dozens of Hamas fighters infiltrated the heavily fortified border in several locations and catching the country off guard on a major holiday. Palestinian death toll is at least 198. That was less than a minute ago they posted this. Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza says at least 198 people have been killed and 1,600 wounded in the territory in Israel's retaliation after a wide-ranging Hamas assault into Israel. Israel has carried out a number of airstrikes in Gaza and has clashed with gunmen at the border fence across the coastal territory. Death toll in Israel rises to 40. This is around 8:30. And I'll give the Associated Press a lot of credit for the way they're doing this. I mean, I like this moment by moment, bullet by bullet update. Israel National Rescue Service says at least 40 people have been killed in a wide-ranging Hamas assault into Israel. The latest toll came from the Magen David Adom Rescue Services as fighting was still underway on Saturday. Hospitals in Israel are treating hundreds of wounded people, including dozens in critical condition. Very sad situation in the state of Israel. Very, very sad indeed. And when I think back to just a few years ago when we had the Abraham Accords and the promise, at least the beginnings maybe of peace in the Middle East, it's very sad to see. It truly is. And, it was breaking this morning. I wanted to bring it to you guys to let you take a look at it and just see what's going on. It's very, very sad to watch. Very sad indeed. But that's not all that's going on in the world. And let me tell you, from the perspective of domestic politics, woo, what a week it has been. Oh my gosh. I mean, I said at the beginning of the broadcast, the Chinese have an expression, may you live in interesting times. And boy, they had no idea what that meant for America in 2023. There's a lot of stuff going on, just a ton of stuff. And, I obviously the biggest thing that's going on this week, or at least up to this point, is the fight over the speakership in the U.S. House of Representatives. Or that's one of the bigger stories, I should say. There's all kinds of things going on, but it's the one that's garnering the most attention. It's the one that, brings about the most commentary. So we're going to get into it. And we're going to start kind of where we left off last Saturday. Excuse me, my vocal cords need a little lubrication there. So as we were just signing off last week, and for those of you, by the way, who are joining the broadcast, and maybe you're new here for the first time, Leanne, hang on to that, honey, because we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. Yes, ma'am, we will. You are, one of these days, I swear, I've got to get you, if you're willing to do it, just for the fun of it, to have you co-host with me some Saturday morning, because I think that would be a hoot, because I get the feeling that our brains are on just about the same wavelength when it comes to this stuff, because usually you're about 2 jumps ahead of me before I ever get to the story I want to talk about. It's like, hey, we're going to talk about this. I'm like, yeah, yes, dear, we're going to talk about this. So some Saturday morning, I need to have you on here to co-host. That would be a hoot. That would be really, really fun. Yeah, there's a lot to get into. But as we were signing off last Saturday morning around, well, afternoon around 12:30 Eastern, um, the House was within about 3 hours of passing a continuing resolution. Now, let me bring up the headline from the messenger.com. Okay, so you're game for this sometime. Okay. Okay. And this is not an idle comment with me. I'm serious about this. So we'll just tuck this one away. This might happen somewhere down the line. So don't worry. I'm not above doing this. So just to let you know. But I'll bring up the headline from the messenger.com. House beats the clock, approves government funding, Senate poised to prevent shutdown. The House passed the funding extension with overwhelming bipartisan support. And now here's the next part of this line that's critical. Even though Democrats were upset, it did not include Ukraine funding. Now, I want to back up a second and talk about this because, God, there is so much to get into where this is concerned, okay? And I mean, honestly, everybody is going to say that it was the CR that did Kevin McCarthy in. Now, if you're wondering what I'm talking about specifically, I want to play you a couple of quotes from him. And this has to do with everything leading up to the passage of the CR. Because for the entire 2 weeks heading to that moment last Saturday, Kevin McCarthy's out there. He's talking tough. He's out there saying, we're going to hold the line. Excuse me. We're going to hold the line on spending. We've got a chance here to reset our government, yada, yada, yada. So I want to play you some clips just to give you an idea of where McCarthy was going with this. So we'll start with the first one. This is from Squawk Box. Folks, take a listen to this.
Listen, I know Sunday's football day. If people have this type of attitude, they quit in the third quarter. One thing, if I hope you realize about me, is I never give up. And you know what? If we have to play into overtime to get it right, I will do just that.
Okay. I don't give up. I play into overtime, right? Okay. Okay. All right. So we got our leader, our fearless leader. He's coming up. We're going to take this thing to overtime, right? Play another one from the same show. Take a listen to this one. This one's great.
But listen, I believe this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to deal with the border, deal with our funding, and put us on a path that this country is stronger. I will listen, just as I sat yesterday. I also think another provision that we can deal with is a debt commission.
Oh, for heaven's sake. What is it with politicians that they just have this unwilling, just amazing desire to just shovel it off to somebody else as opposed to just deal with it themselves? Which I suppose you can make an argument is a human trait for everybody in the world. But politicians in Washington, D.C. tend to do it worse than anybody else. Just amazing. Well, he's talking tough. He's doing everything else. And then when push comes to shove, he choked. He choked. But worse than choking is how he did it. Now you're sitting there saying, well, Front Porch, what's the big deal? He passed the CR. Yeah, that was bad, but I mean, how could you do worse than passing the CR? Well, it's not exactly how he passed the CR. It's what he may have done to do it. So let me get this set up. Because I tell you what, this This is really, yeah, well, yeah, back deals. And that's what we're going to get into next, Leanne. So hang on. I want to read you part of a statement from President Biden that was done on the passage of the CR. Okay. And this is the very last paragraph. While the Speaker and the overwhelming majority of Congress have been steadfast in their support of Ukraine, there is no new funding in this agreement to continue that support. We cannot, under any circumstances, allow American support for Ukraine to be interrupted. I fully expect the Speaker will, quote, keep his commitment to the people of Ukraine and secure passage of the support needed to help Ukraine at this critical moment. Okay. Okay. Now, you might take that statement and say, well, that's just hyperbole on the part of Joe Biden, support for Ukraine. But is that really all that was said here? Okay. Now I want to show you a statement from the House Democrats. Moving forward, there is still work that needs to be done, including renewing support for the valiant Ukrainian effort to defeat Russia on the battlefield in the name of freedom and democracy. When the House returns, we expect Kevin McCarthy to advance a bill to the House floor for an up or down vote that supports Ukraine, consistent with his commitment to making sure that Vladimir Putin, Russia, and authoritarianism are defeated. We must stand with the Ukrainian people until victory is won. So, okay, now we're past the point of Biden saying that, there's a commitment to Ukraine. Now we've got Hakeem Jeffries and the House Democrat leadership saying, we expect you to bring a bill to the floor, which sort of begs the question, did we get some kind of a back deal here like Leanne's referring to? Well, I want to go back to that article from themessenger.com and go right deep into the heart of it. Representative Greg Meeks, Democrat in New York, the top Democrat on the Foreign Affairs Committee, said there is still time for Congress to pass more Ukraine aid. Quote, I think we have enough until the end of the year, he said, of previously approved funds. Congress could still act sooner. Now listen to this. Representative Annie Kuster, Democrat, New Hampshire, said it's her understanding that there's an agreement between the White House, McCarthy, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer to consider Ukraine aid in the next few weeks. House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries signaled that too, as he said during a press conference after the vote that he expected action on Ukraine aid, quote, in the next few days. Now, here's another one. West Virginia Republican Shelley Moore Capito told reporters she had heard rumors of a deal between the White House and McCarthy. She said she expected the House stopgap funding bill would get through the Senate. Quote, I think it's going to be hard to deny here in terms of the will to get something done to prevent the shutdown. Capito said, that's number one. Live to fight another day on other issues. Okay. So it's bad enough that McCarthy backed off of his tough talk about using the CR as leverage against the White House to actually bring about reductions in spending. It's bad enough that he hung his fellow Republicans out to dry. It's bad enough that he sold the country down the river by letting uncontrolled spending just go on and on and on and on. But worst yet, to get his Judas-like continuing resolution through the Congress, he had to cut a back deal with the White House, Chuck Schumer in the Senate, and Hakeem Jeffries saying, hey, you guys give me some help on passing this thing. I'll get you a clean up or down vote on a Ukraine funding bill. Because remember, and I don't have the totals here in front of me, but if my memory serves me right, it took more Democrats to help pass this CR in the House last Saturday than Republicans who voted for it. As a matter of fact, that is true. As I said, I don't have the exact number in front of me, and I might be able to find it real fast, so hang on. Let's see. House funding bill passed by 335 to 91. Okay, I think I remember how this went down. There were about 200 plus Democrats, if I remember this correctly, about 200 plus Democrats that voted for this CR. Not a majority of Republicans, by the way. A majority of Democrats voted to pass this thing. And I've got a bad feeling that was the price tag. Now, you sit there and you say to yourself, as probably I did at the time, well, the SOB sold us right down the river. And that's exactly what Kevin McCarthy did. But nobody expected what was going to happen next, except the person who actually put the wheels in motion. And that leads into news item from the week number 2. The House passes the CR, and then Matt Gaetz enters from stage left. And what happened next in the history of not just the United States Congress, but the nation, was probably one of the most historic moments that has gone down in this country, I will make an argument, since the resignation of Richard Nixon. Because what happened was the removal of the Speaker of the House. And I want to play this video clip from Breitbart, because I could sit here and talk all day long about what it was like, what it felt like, what that moment was, but the clip does it more justice than I'll ever be able to put it into words. So I'm going to play this real quick for everybody.
On this vote, the yeas are 216, the nays are 210. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
See what I mean, folks? That's got to be one of the most powerful. I mean, it's always said that images can do more sometimes than words. And I'm not saying that's not true. But in this case, it's very true. That is probably one of the most powerful and dramatic moments that I think we're ever going to see. And yeah, I wholeheartedly concur with you on this, dear. I really do. I really do. This is just, I mean, it's historic on so many different fronts. I mean, this is one valid point. About time our reps start doing what the people want. Everybody right now, I mean, I've got a bunch of thoughts about the removal of McCarthy. I think it's amazing. It's historic. It's a lot of different things. It truly is. And gosh, I mean, everybody's going to give Matt Gaetz and the other 7 Republicans who voted for this a lot of grief, which, by the way, if you don't know who they are, the 216 was made up of all the Democrats present in the body and then made up of these individuals. Matt Gaetz of Florida, Nancy Mace of South Carolina, Andy Biggs of Arizona, Matt Rosendale of Montana, Eli Crane of Arizona, Ken Buck of Colorado, Tim Burchett of Tennessee, and Bob Good of Virginia. Yeah, you're he's your rep. You done good, girl, putting him in. You done good, girl. Yeah, I mean, just everybody's going to give them grief for this. But my question is, and I ask this not just to my audience, but to people watching this later on from everywhere around the world. When is it enough? Now, here's what I'm getting at. When is it enough that a person or persons, or let's take it one step further in this context, that a politician or a group of politicians lies to you tells you they're going to do something, they don't do it, they do that once, and then they do it again and again and again and again. When is it enough that the people that they purport to represent use peaceful, constitutional means to remove that individual or individuals from the positions that they hold? I think the thing, personally, I think the thing that official Washington is most shocked about is that they actually did it. Now, what I'm getting at is this, because you got to think back. Back in January, remember all that round robin of voting? 15 different ballots before Kevin McCarthy was finally elected Speaker of the House. And in all of that, promises were made. Look, if we give you our votes, this is the Freedom Caucus talking to McCarthy, if we give you our votes, we expect you to do this, 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 and this. Individual deals were made with McCarthy. Tim Burchett being a perfect example of that. Representative from Tennessee. He wanted certain commitments from McCarthy. Okay? McCarthy says, yes, I'll do all that. I'll do all that. I'll do all that. Well, 10 months later, he's not doing any of it. And the stuff that we actually expect him to lead on and be a leader of, he's backtracking. He's giving up. He's being rolled by Joe Biden and the Democrats. So when is it enough? When is it enough that the people rise up by peaceful means and remove bad politicians? Like I said, everybody's giving Matt Gaetz all kinds of hell over this, okay? What everybody is ignoring is the courage. And take Matt Gaetz out of this for a second, okay? Let's just take Matt Gaetz out of the equation altogether. Let's just say that anybody else among these 8 individuals had led this effort. Let's just say Nancy Mace of South. Matter of fact, that'd be a perfect example. Nancy Mace of South Carolina. Okay. Can you imagine the courage that it took for her and the other 7 members of the U.S. House, who are also Republicans, the courage that it took for them to get up and do what they did? Because they could have rolled over, okay? There were tons of members of the Freedom Caucus who voted to keep McCarthy in as Speaker of the House. Paul Gosar of Arizona, Ryan Zink of Montana, bunch of others, okay? But these 8 individuals exercised the courage of their convictions and said, enough. Now, the Democrats, you expect the Democrats to do something like this because, they're all about the acquisition of power. Hey, if we can get McCarthy out and get, our guy in somehow by hook or crook, we're going to do it. So, yeah, you kind of expect them to do what they did. But you don't expect to find 5 or more Republicans willing to put out McCarthy. And I'm not going to lie about it. When all this got started, I thought McCarthy would survive the vote. I genuinely did. Because I didn't think there were enough people in the House willing to put him out. Even though he had been rolled, even though he was cutting side deals, even though he was going back on his word to people, even though he wasn't keeping commitments, I didn't think there was enough good people left with the guts to stand up and say, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. You're done. You're done. Oh, by the way, hang on a minute. And by the way, no, that's not scotch. It's sweet tea. It's too early in the morning for scotch. But again, could you imagine me drinking on this stream? Well, the interesting part is, Leanne, they're all up for re-election next year. Remember, it's the House. It's a 2-year term. They're all up. What I'm going to be interested to see if he's going to retire. But the reason that they were able to do this is something called a motion to vacate. Now, I want to show you this again. I talked about this in the video, but it's definitely worth bringing up by way of remembering. The motion to vacate is one of those rules, among others in the House of Representatives, that is very rarely ever invoked. As a matter of fact, it's only been done 3 times in the entire history of the U.S. House. And I'll show you this real quick. The attempt to remove Joseph Cannon in 1910. And Cannon was the one that actually brought the motion, because he looked at his fellow Republicans and said, fine, you want to take me out? Go for it. He survived. The next time it was attempted was over 100 years later, when Mark Meadows filed a motion to do it. Okay? It didn't lead to an actual vote on the House floor because John Boehner felt the heat and he resigned. And then that gets to McCarthy. Now, the reason that this motion was so successful in this case is because Matt Gaetz and the other members of the Freedom Caucus got a concession out of McCarthy. And looking back on it, if McCarthy had realized what was going to happen to him, I don't think he would have ever agreed to this. The way that the rule was structured was that a small group of members of the House had to be willing to band together to agree amongst themselves to bring the motion to the floor. As a matter of fact, in my recollection, it had to be at least 6 members. This was the way the rule was constructed under Nancy Pelosi. Now, if you stop and think about it, it kind of makes sense. It's going to be very hard for the opposition to get 6 individuals together willing to bring this motion, because the Speaker of the House can deploy all sorts of means to get these 6 individuals, whomever they may be thinking about being, to say, well, maybe this is not such a good idea. A lot of pressure can be brought to bear. A lot of arm twisting can be done. A lot of threats, everything else. But the concession that Matt Gaetz got was an agreement, and it was voted in by the House, that all it took to bring the motion to vacate is for any one member to bring the motion. Any one member could do it. And that, right now, is the key to power in the House of Representatives. Everybody says that the Speaker is the most important person in the House. Okay, in theory, you're absolutely right. Right now, I'll make an argument any of the other 434 members are the most important member of the House. Why? Because they've got the potential to take the Speaker out. You know, it's absolutely amazing to me. Absolutely amazing to me. And Larry, I've read this comment, but I'd like for you to explain more what you mean with that. I mean, you know, it's Saturday morning. You know, I'm willing to engage you on this, but yeah, I'd really like to hear what you think about this. Yeah, it is. The way that the rule is structured right now, it's the great equalizer. And that's what made what happened so amazing. Is, you know, that one individual can bring the motion to take him out. Now, you want to know how mad official Washington was? Watch this. This is great. I will watch this every time and laugh. And laugh. This is Thomas McHenry. Watch this.
In the opinion of the chair, prior to proceeding to the election of a speaker, it would be prudent to first recess for the relative caucus and conferences to meet and discuss the path forward. Accordingly, pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the chair declares the House in recess subject to the call of the chair.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I think he's mad. I think he's absolutely angry. He's upset. He got his toy taken away from him. Yeah, and the reason being that Joker was part of McCarthy's leadership team. That's why he's upset, because he knows he's about to be out of a job, whatever job it is he has. Yeah, this is going to get really, really interesting. Oh, okay, Larry. See, all right, Larry, you all right. The right has convinced its followers that liberals are the problem with our country. Convinced Germans that Jewish people were the problem with Europe. How are they different? Well, all right, I'll take that one on. Kind of do a side discussion here. I'll take that one on. The Jewish people were not any kind of a problem to the German population in general. And you could say the same thing about political liberals in this country. Okay, I got no problem with political liberals. I just don't want their ideas implemented. I think there are two different things. Okay. I have not a problem with someone who disagrees with me. I have no problem with anybody on my political left. It's just that when you start taking their ideas and you put them into power, you start seeing bad things start happening. Oh, Larry. Oh, Larry, you went there. You really went there. Dude, you hang on. You hold on to that one. Because, brother, I'm going to show you something later in the show that you're asking the question, when is MAGA going to start doing this? You know what? No, I've got a better idea. I'm not even going to wait to do it. I'll just do it right now. I was going to save this for later in the show. But you know what? You went there. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it right now. I'm going to play you a snippet of an interview between Christiane Amanpour of CNN and Hillary Clinton. You're asking the question, when is MAGA going to start rounding up leftists and putting them in concentration camps? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not worried about that because it's not going to happen, but I'm a little more worried about what Hillary Clinton's proposing to do. So I'm going to let you listen to this in her own words, and then you tell me which side has the bigger problem here.
That's the way it used to be. I mean, we had very strong partisans in both parties in the past, and we had very bitter battles over all kinds of things, gun control and climate change and the economy and taxes. But there wasn't this little tail of extremism wagging the dog of the Republican Party as it is today. Mm-hmm. And sadly, so many of those extremists, those MAGA extremists, take their marching orders from Donald Trump, who has no credibility left by any measure. He's only in it for himself. He's now defending himself in civil actions and criminal actions. And when do they break with him? Because at some point, maybe there needs to be a formal deprogramming of the cult members, but something needs to happen. And how do you?
So we're going to start deprogramming the cult members, are we? Huh, that's interesting. First of all, we're not cult members. Those who would identify themselves as being Make America Great Again, they're not cult members, number one. And number two, they don't need to be deprogrammed. Why is it, Larry, I mean, I'm not trying to get into a fight with you this morning, but since you're feeling feisty and you want to talk about it, I'll talk about it with you. Why is it that people on the political left seem to believe that folks on the right who don't happen to share their views are so bad and so wrong that they need to be deprogrammed? Why is it that folks on the political right are the ones who are in the political wrong? Okay. As a matter of fact, as if that weren't an idea that weren't scary enough, I'll give you one more, my friend. This is from Newsweek magazine. Donald Trump exclusive. Donald Trump followers targeted by FBI as 2024 election nears. Article by William Arkin. The federal government believes that the threat of violence and major civil disturbances around the 2024 U.S. presidential election is so great that it has quietly created a new category of, quote, extremists that it seeks to track and counter Donald Trump's army of MAGA followers. The challenge for the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the primary federal agency charged with law enforcement, is to pursue and prevent what it calls domestic terrorism without direct reference to political parties or affiliation, even though the vast majority of its current anti-government investigations are of Trump supporters, according to classified data obtained by Newsweek. Quote, the FBI is in an almost impossible position, says a current FBI official who requested anonymity to discuss the highly sensitive internal matters. The official said the FBI is intent on stopping domestic terrorism and any repeat of January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol, but the Bureau must also preserve the constitutional rights of all Americans to campaign, speak freely, and protest the government. By focusing on former President Trump and his MAGA supporters, the official said the Bureau runs the risk of provoking the very anti-government activists that the terrorism agencies hopes to counter. So, Larry, with all due respect to you, it's not just an issue that you've got someone like Hillary Clinton out there saying that people who happen to disagree with her politically need to be deprogrammed or reprogrammed. It's an issue now that the FBI is tracking the activities of people who are supporters of Donald Trump. So I ask you the question, sir. You seem to not like people on the political right, which that's fine. That's your option to do. But honestly, which of us is worse? Someone like me who happens to politically disagree with you, or someone like some of the people on your side of the fence who are apparently prepared to reprogram people like me and make sure that I'm tracked simply because of my political beliefs? You decide. But anyway, I'm not moving the goalpost, man. I'm just telling you what's going on. That's from Newsweek. That's not from Breitbart. That's not from the Gateway Pundit. That's not from any right-wing publication. Newsweek is anything if right-wing. I'm just telling you what's in the news. You make up your own mind. But anyway, we'll get back to previous discussion. The speakership. So Gaetz brings this motion, gets it to succeed. McCarthy is removed. Like I say, one of the most amazing historic moments ever. So now that sort of begs the question. Where do we go from here? Well, that gets to be a very, very interesting problem. I shouldn't say problem. Which, by the way, that gets to something else. Why is it that when the order of things is disturbed in Washington, D.C., it's chaos? Now, when I say the order of things, I'm not talking about the orderly manner in which things proceed. I'm talking about the establishment's hold on power. Because let's be honest about it. McCarthy's about as establishment as it gets. He might have an R after his name, but he's a member of the Uniparty. that group of individuals, they're Democrats, they're Republicans, they run Washington. He's uniparty. He's a member of the establishment. So, yeah. So why is it that when the order of things are disturbed for the establishment, that it's chaos? No, there's no chaos involved in this. We're just trying to get someone who actually, will do what they say they're going to do, which would be refreshing. So some names almost immediately get dropped in, and this is where it starts to get interesting. Now, as you might expect, there are people currently in the House of Representatives that threw their hats in the ring immediately. Steve Scalise, Republican of Louisiana, and Jim Jordan, the current chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. Well, things took a very interesting turn Thursday night in that Jordan declares, and then a rumor breaks out. And that leads into our next story, and this is from thehill.com. This broke Thursday evening. Sources say that Trump's set to endorse Jordan for the speakership. Now, what this article is referring to is the fact that Donald Trump, at the time this story was written, and it broke about 9:30 Thursday night, and the story we just looked at was written in about an hour later, that a Republican congressman from Texas had talked to Trump, and Trump had said that he was endorsing Jim Jordan. Well, and here's one of those moments when I love and hate being on social media. Because I was working on a video talking about the possible Trump endorsement of Jim Jordan. And son of a gun, if this guy, I say Trump, didn't just absolutely cut the rug out from under me on my video. Take a look at this. This is from Donald Trump's Truth Social account. And he posted this about 12:15 a.m., just about the time I was uploading my video. Congressman Jim Jordan has been a star long before making his very successful journey to Washington, D.C., representing Ohio's 4th Congressional District. Respected by all, he is now chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. As president, I had the honor of presenting Jim with the country's highest civilian award, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So much is learned from sports, and Jim was a master. While attending Graham High School, he won state championships all 4 years, a rarity, compiled amazing 156-1 record. University of Wisconsin-Madison, became a 2-time NCAA Division I wrestling champion. He won the 85-86 NCAA championship matches in his weight class. He's strong on crime, borders, military vets, Second Amendment. Jim and his wife Polly and family are outstanding. He will be a great Speaker of the House, has my complete and total endorsement. Okay. So Trump has weighed in on this. What does it all mean? And if Jordan becomes Speaker, what are we to make of this? Well, let's start first with Trump weighing in on this. I want you to think back in time to 2017. Paul Ryan was then Speaker of the House. And there were individuals who came to Trump, and this is well known, it's documented, so nothing wrong there, who came to Trump and said, look, you don't want Paul Ryan as Speaker. This guy's going to stab you in the back, or he's going to slow walk your agenda through the House. Look, we've got it lined up. We can get you Jim Jordan. Okay? Jordan is respected on all sides. If you come out now and endorse Jordan, we can get him in. Trump made the decision in a good faith effort to try to work with establishment Washington. He'd said, guys, I'm going to dance with Ryan on this one. In retrospect, it was a mistake, but okay. At the time, you might not have agreed with Trump's argument, but you could have respected it. Okay? All right. Well, unfortunately, Mark Meadows and his fellow Freedom Caucus members proved to be correct. Ryan either screwed him outright or slow walked his agenda through the House. Well, fate and time are strange things. They bring you back around again. So now we have a vacant Speaker of the House, and Trump has weighed in. He wants Jordan. Okay. All right. Mr. President, I'll make an argument you should have done this 7 years ago, but okay. Okay. You may be late to the party, but all right, fine. So that's Trump weighing in on it. And I think strategically it makes sense. I think Jim Jordan is going to try and push a more conservative agenda. I think he's going to be a definite step up as far as rhetorical flourish against the White House. I, however, have reservations about Jim Jordan becoming Speaker. I do. I like Jim Jordan. Don't get me wrong. I love this guy. This guy is a bulldog. Okay? He's very smart. He's any number of different things. But there's just, I've got this nagging problem when it comes to Jim Jordan. And it's this. Jim Jordan talks a very good game. But show me the receipts. Okay? Now here's what I'm getting at. Jim Jordan barks all the time about the weaponization of the Department of Justice against, individuals in this country. He barks all the time about, Google and Facebook and these social media companies who are suppressing free speech and not letting a free flow of ideas out there so that individuals in America may make up their mind. Okay, that's good. I'm glad you're bringing attention to these issues. I'm glad you're talking about them. I'm glad that you're wanting them out for public consumption and debate. Now, here's my question. What are you doing about it? Well, I'm holding hearings. Okay, that's great. Now what are you doing? Anybody in Washington, D.C. can hold a hearing. What kind of legislation are you bringing forth that solves this problem? What kind of solutions are you working to bring about? Because I'm tired of politicians that talk. I don't want you to talk. I want you to do something. Now, we can debate what the do something is, and believe me, we will. But at least bring forth an idea and start moving it down the field. Okay? I don't expect you to be on, the 1 yard line, on your 1 yard line, and throw a 99-yard touchdown every time some piece of legislation comes up. But I'd like to actually see you do something. Don't just talk about it. That's my worry with Jordan. If he does become Speaker, will he actually get things done? I don't know. Now, there's one side of that argument that says, okay, he hasn't had the chance to do it yet. All right. There's a flip side of that coin, and that's this. You've had power, albeit limitedly, either as the ranking minority member on certain committees or as the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. What have you done with it? What have you done with it? I don't know. This is my worry about Jordan. Which I suppose you can make an argument that my concern is probably the same, regardless of who would become the Speaker, whether it be Jordan or Steve Scalise or others. You can make the same thing. But since everybody right now in the conservative movement seems to be hot to trot to put Jordan in, okay, fine. I'm just saying, I would support him, but I would do so with reservation. Okay. And to me, the big test on Jim Jordan, if he becomes Speaker, is this. Let me show you something. Jim Jordan has already publicly pledged he doesn't support Ukraine funding. This is excellent. We cannot have a speaker who supports Ukraine funding. Now, I'm going to sit here and tell you quite honestly, I don't know what Jim Jordan's record is as far as the votes on the appropriations bills for Ukraine. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I have no idea. And I have not seen a quote from Jim Jordan saying he opposes further funding for Ukraine. However, I will say this. If that is his position, that he wants no more money for Ukraine, okay, let's put that to the test. When push comes to shove, if you become Speaker of the House, are you going to refuse to let an appropriation bill on Ukraine come to the floor for a vote? Now, don't get me wrong. I am not trying to bait him into it. I'm just simply asking a logical question. If that is his position, that he wants no more funding for Ukraine, as Speaker of the House, are you willing to block the vote on an appropriations bill? Because you'll have the power to do it. You want to stop it, go ahead. Go right ahead and do it. But will you? And by the way, lest anyone, Larry, think that this is somehow, the right wingers don't like Ukraine or whatever, or we don't want funding for Ukraine. Let me point out something. Rising number of Americans against arming Ukraine. This is from Breitbart. Portion of Americans against sending additional weapons to Ukraine is on the rise, growing by 7% since May, according to a Reuters Ipsos poll. The poll, published on Thursday, indicates that support for Ukraine is waning, as 46% of Americans were in favor of shipping weapons back to the country in May. Now it's down to 41%. Conversely, 29% of Americans were against sending weapons in May, and that number now sits at 35%. This marks an 11-point swing in the change of public opinion. There is a break among party lines as 52% of Democrats surveyed continue to support military aid to the embattled nation. This is a sharp decline from May, when 61% of Democrats were in favor of continued military aid, per Reuters. Conversely, just 39% of Republicans backed sending more weapons to the country in May, and that number has dwindled to 35% in the latest survey. The Reuters Ipsos poll was conducted online and nationwide, surveying 1,005 adults. It has a credibility interval of plus or minus 4%. Okay, you've got a significant portion of Americans that do not want to give one more thin dime to Ukraine to aid them in this war against Russia. Okay, Jim Jordan, if you become Speaker, you going to stand on that, or are you going to say, well, the president's in charge of foreign policy and we need to back his play and yada, yada, yada? No. Let's find out if truly your conviction, and again, I'm not trying to put you in a box here, Jim Jordan, but if your conviction truly is that this funding to Ukraine needs to stop, are you willing to stand on your convictions and say no more? Because that's what everyone's looking for right now, is leadership. Okay? Yeah, and see, that's my worry. That's my worry with him. All bark, no bite. And to me, that vote on Ukraine funding will be the test. We're going to find out what we're going to get with Jordan. Now, I'm not saying that every politician has to do everything that I want. I know there are going to be moments when I am disappointed. Nobody gets everything they want out of legislators or legislation. I understand that. But there's some pretty big markers right now that should tell everybody where somebody is or is not on issues and what they will and will not do. And I think a vote on the Ukraine funding bill is going to be one of them. Well, now, it's funny you bring that up. It's funny you bring that up because I want to show you something here in a minute that is interesting to me in this whole mishmash about the speakership fight. And I don't quite understand this one. And, I'll be happy to hear from you guys on this because I think this to me is pretty telling. Take a look at this. I found this, was it yesterday? Yeah, I think it was yesterday. This is from Axios.com. Bitter GOP rivalries return with a vengeance in the speaker's race. New tensions are colliding with old feuds in the Republican race to become speaker, intensifying the GOP paralysis and raising questions about whether any candidate is capable of governing the conference. I don't quite agree with that one, but we'll go further. The internal chaos has major implications for government funding, aid to Ukraine, the 2024 election, and other issues that extend far beyond the walls of Congress. Old wounds reopened by the removal of Kevin McCarthy as Speaker will only exacerbate those challenges. McCarthy confidants quietly have been making phone calls to advocate against Majority Leader Steve Scalise, Republican of Louisiana, who's considered the leading contender to become Speaker. Scalise and McCarthy have long been rivals, with tensions spilling out into public eye on multiple on multiple occasions in recent years. One of McCarthy's closest allies, Garrett Graves, Republican of Louisiana, took a thinly veiled swipe at Scalise on Wednesday, telling reporters, quote, "I think this whole narrative about every member of the existing leadership taking one step up is bullshit. The body wasn't even cold," the one House Republican told The Messenger, criticizing Scalise for quietly launching his campaign moments after McCarthy was ousted. Now, I find this fascinating. And maybe I just didn't realize it, and that's fine. I'm not saying I'm the repository of all knowledge about all things political in America. But I would have assumed that given that McCarthy and Scalise were in the leadership together, that they'd be buddies, or at least a whole lot more friendly than apparently this article seems to let people believe. But if what Axios is reporting is true, then this could be McCarthy's revenge on Scalise for whatever slight that McCarthy feels Scalise did to him at one time or another. I find this fascinating. I find it extremely interesting that McCarthy, if what is being reported is correct, that McCarthy and his people are going behind the scenes, calling up members of the House Republican caucus and saying, "Hey, you might want to support Jim Jordan because this Scalise guy, he's a piece of crap." And I'm like, now look, I got nothing. And it's kind of funny because I have nothing against Steve Scalise either. I mean, look, there's a lot in this man's bio that I think is decent and honorable. I may not agree with him on every political position that he holds, or everything he's ever done. But look, this guy was playing a baseball game one day and some lunatic came up and shot him and courageously fought his way back to come back to the House of Representatives. The man's currently battling cancer and is still performing his duties in the U.S. House of Representatives. Laying aside politics, dude, that's a lot to overcome. So I got nothing personally against Scalise. Given my choice in this, I probably would support Jordan. But then again, it's like Robert Lowry and I were having an exchange back and forth online. Robert's a great guy who's normally here watching the channel. Maybe he's here right now, just hasn't said anything. I don't know. But, Robert commented on my video and said, well, it may not matter who really is the Speaker of the House, And I said, yeah, I can kind of understand that. It's kind of like, trying to make a decision between, which turd stinks less. And I'm sorry, it's a crass way of putting it, but it's kind of accurate. It's like, okay, this one smells and this one smells. Do you smell less bad than the other one does? I don't know. It's I don't know. I mean, I don't care how long you've been there. Will you stand up and show some leadership? I mean, the country is $33 trillion in debt. We have a border down south that's so wide open, thousands are crossing it every month. We have no idea where they are in the United States, which, by the way, that's not my statement. That's the Biden administration, because they're admitting they have no idea where they are. We're $33 trillion in debt. We've got a southern border that's wide open. We're funding a bloodbath of a war over in Eastern Europe against an enemy, frankly, we shouldn't even be fighting, even by way of a proxy war. We've got rampant crime in the streets. We've got cities that are absolutely devolving down into dystopian hellholes. I want some leaders. I don't want people talking. I want leadership. Put forth a plan. Put something into action. We can debate whether it's right or wrong. That's fine. I get that. We will. But do something. Don't just talk about it. Oh, I don't like the fact that social media is censoring speech online. Then do something about it. Oh, I don't like the fact that thousands of people are crossing the border. We probably ought to do something about that. You think? Do something. I don't want you talking anymore. I want you doing something. Now, caveat to that. Do I expect that all our answers to all our problems in this country will come from politicians? Absolutely not. And for the record, I don't want them to. A lot of the problems that we have in this country, before they ever become matters political, are really matters of the heart. And that's one of those areas that government, no matter what, will ever be able to affect. They can influence, but they won't affect. A lot of our problems are our own mess, problems of our own making, be it individually or corporately. But I do want political leadership to actually stand up and be an example of what could yet be, not what we are willing to accept. So I think this fight over the speakership is just fascinating and interesting, which, by the way, one last thought on all this. After what happened with the removal of McCarthy, there is a move afoot to take out or modify the motion to vacate, to take it back to what it was. I'm going to give you two different things from Twitter. One of them comes from DC Drano, Rogan O'Hanley. Do not abandon the motion to vacate. Even if Jim Jordan gets in as speaker, do not abandon the motion to vacate. I like Jim. I think he'd be a great speaker, but the swamp is very powerful. What he's talking about, there's a move afoot to take the rule back to what it was. In other words, as it stands right now, the rule in the House is any one member may bring a motion to vacate the chair, and then the House votes on the question. Unless, of course, they table the motion, which that was attempted last week, and they didn't succeed, obviously. But now that the establishment realizes, oh my God, the members of the House floor actually have power, we've got to do something about this. We can't let this sort of thing go on. We can't be made to be held accountable. They want the rule changed back to what it was, where it takes at least 5 or 6 people to bring that motion together. I'm going to, on the off chance, Matt Gaetz or Nancy Mace or any of the Gaetz 8, as they're called, or any members of the Freedom Caucus on the Republican side are watching this video, do not do it. Don't do it. Don't let them do it. Don't let them change that rule. Because right now, not just Republicans, by the way, not just Republicans, Democrats as well have actual power on the floor of the House. You have it, the members of the U.S. House of Representatives, have it within your hands to hold leadership accountable. Now, I may not agree with your politics. if you're a member of the House of Representatives. I may not agree with what you're trying to hold them accountable for, but you would at least have the power to do it. Give this up, and the leadership in the House will roll the members on the floor every single time. You won't be able to stop them. Matt Gaetz and the Freedom Caucus back in January did the country a huge favor, but no one wants to think about it. They actually gave power back to the members, the individual members on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives. If any one member can bring this motion, and they can cobble together the votes to do it, they can take out anybody who's Speaker of the House. And leadership knows this. What it gets down to is, boil it all down, they don't want to be held accountable. Boil it all down, they don't want a boundary established. Boil it all down, they don't want the power back in the hands of the members of the House of Representatives, who are supposed to be the representatives of the American people. And one last clip I'll play you, at least on this subject anyway. This is from Jack Posobiec, and I absolutely love this. So think about this, establishment Washington.
But here's my question for the next speaker. Are you willing to actually do what needs to be done? And here's the thing. If you're not, the motion to vacate the MTV is going to be deployed against you again and again and again and again, because that's the dirty little secret. We're not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with all of us. And so either you comply or you get out of the way. Lead, follow, or we will remove you.
Now, I know what people are going to say. They're going to say that Posobiec is being, completely over the top with this. It's threatening. It's whatever else. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's reality. It's absolute reality. That's why I'm trying to tell the members of the House, do not let this rule be changed on the motion to vacate. But it's going to bring chaos. We don't know who the speaker is going to be. Yeah, you know who the speaker is going to be if the speaker keeps their word. If the speaker honors their commitments. If the speaker leads the House, then you're not going to have to worry about it. The only time any politician who is Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives is going to have to worry about a motion to vacate is if they break their word, if they go back on their commitments. That's when they got to worry about it. Otherwise, it shouldn't even be an issue. If Kevin McCarthy would have done the things that he promised to do, both to the Freedom Caucus corporately and to individual members in private discussions, if he'd have kept his word, he wouldn't be out of a job right now. Everybody keeps talking about Matt Gaetz, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I don't know what's in the heart of Matt Gaetz when he brought this motion. Maybe it was politics. Maybe it was personal. Maybe he didn't like McCarthy. But you cannot convince me that the other 7 members who voted of the Republican caucus, who voted along with him and all of the Democrats, were doing this based on hate, or based on their dislike of McCarthy, or based on their furthering their own political ambitions. And I'll give you a perfect example of that. Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina. Now look, you can say what you want to about Nancy Mace, and God knows people have over the years. But one thing for sure about Nancy, she's not some right-wing bomb thrower. No, she's generally conservative on most issues. But there's some things where she kind of, goes off the reservation in the opinion of some people. But even Nancy Mace admitted, she's like, look, McCarthy had promised me certain things. He didn't do them. And she's like, I got a belly full of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being lied to. So this some argument that this right-wing cabal has taken out Kevin McCarthy is a load of crap. So no, what we've got in place with the motion to vacate as it's currently constituted in the House rules is a measure of accountability. And I am begging you, members of the House, do not vote to change this rule. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're Democrat. Don't you dare vote to let this rule be changed. You actually have power. Power to hold your leaders, be they a Democrat speaker or a Republican speaker. You've got the power to hold them accountable. If you give this up and you let this rule be changed, you will never see true power on the House floor again, because everything's going to be decided by the leadership. So I beg of you, I plead with you, don't do it. But anyway, God, I'm on a roll this morning. I am so sorry. I truly am. And yeah, Leanne, I absolutely agree with you. No matter what, I agree. Stop the fight. I mean, they're going to fight. But some of this just needs to get settled and let's move on down the road, But yeah, apologies to everybody. I got on one of those patented rants that I'm known to get to. So where are we right now? Jeez, Lord Almighty. Oh my, hello, Rumble. How you doing over there? We got 9 people watching. Hi, how are you? No, I've got this second laptop setup over here. And I'm finally getting this setup of mine to the point that I'm happy with it. And if y'all know anything about me, I'm a very neurotically twitchy, fidgety person when it comes to fooling with stuff. I mean, I'll be tinkering with this thing, and when my beard is, I have a white beard down to my belly button, and all the hair is off my head. I'll look like Methuselah or some such thing. I'll be tinkering with this thing, for however long until I finally get it comfortable. And I'll never get it totally comfortable. But right now, I've got a really good. I had some inspirations this morning, and yeah, to my friends there at Rumble, yeah, how you doing? Drop a comment in chat. We'd love to hear from you. And we've got Leanne, we've got Larry, we got up in Connecticut. Yes, Larry, I saw your last comment. I'm just gonna, if you want to think that, you go right ahead. I love you. Don't agree with you, but I love you. And we'll just agree to disagree with each other. So, we're cool. But we got Larry in the house. We got Leanne. We got up in Connecticut. A few other people. So we're glad to have all of you here. It's about, 10 minutes to 12. Which, by the way, Larry, if you are I asked this earlier, and I don't think you were in the room yet, and same thing goes for up in Connecticut. If you are college football fans, and because, 'tis the season, if you're a college football fan, who is your team playing today and what time do they kick off? Drop it in chat. I'd love to hear it. I happen to love the fall for a lot of different reasons, and one of them is because of this very thing. I mean, my guys, we're playing down at NC State at 2:00. So, so yeah, if you've got a college football team, okay. I take that as a no college football team. Okay, fair enough. No problem. But yeah, if you got a college football team, what time are they kicking off and who are they playing? I'd love to know. So anyway, it's about 10 minutes to 12. And I said we were loaded. I mean, I am looking at my tabs up here, and first time in 30 years, neither one. Really? I did not know that. First time in 30 years, neither one is in the playoffs. That's amazing. That is just amazing. I mean, I give you credit. I mean, I love the Bo Sox, for a lot of different reasons, but I love the Bo Sox. Okay, cool. That's cool. I mean, I like their coach. Mike Gundy's a good coach. He's a guy's guy. Oh, you're a Yankees fan too? Oh, God. Now, see, if you'd have stopped with the Red Sox and the Cardinals, that'd be one thing. But oh my gosh. But that's okay. I still love you. Don't worry. I still love you. Even though I really wish you weren't a Yankees fan, but okay, whatever. Oh, okay. No, not the Yankees. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, not the Yankees. You mean they're not in the playoffs too? Okay. Sorry about that. I misunderstood you. My apologies. That one's on me. Okay. No. Oh gosh, I love the members of this audience. I really do. Well, yeah, and I should have realized that, honestly. I should have realized that. So that one's on me. I'm a glorious dummy. So yeah, that one's on me. I should have realized that. No, I'm looking at all these tabs I've got across the top of my screen. I'm like, holy crap, I'm not even halfway through this stuff yet. But let me see if I can get myself straightened out here while everybody is. Oh. Oh, man. One of the greatest players to ever wear a Bo Sox uniform. And just a genuinely cool dude. Which, isn't his son playing for the San Francisco Giants? Grandson playing for the San Francisco Giants right now? If I remember correctly. I thought I saw that a few years ago. But yeah, let me straighten out some of my tabs here and see where I'm at. I've got to pull myself together here. Let's see what all we got going on. Let's see. Where am I at? Okay, I think I'm just about there. Okay. Yeah. As I understand it, Yastrzemski's grandson plays for the San Francisco Giants, or at least he was a few years ago. So might want to check into that. I know I saw a clip on YouTube where the Giants came to Fenway Park and Carl Yastrzemski threw out the first pitch, and his grandson, who plays for the Giants, escorted him out to the mound. Now, this was a few years ago. Whether the younger Yastrzemski is still playing for the Giants or not, I'm not sure. But a few years ago, I know for sure he was playing for the San Francisco Giants, which I thought, when I saw the clip, I thought it was a really cool moment. Just very, very cool. So, yeah. So it's about 10 minutes till 12. Now, okay, now I've got myself straightened out here. Okay, I feel better. This is Front Porch Brunch. My name is Brian Trippett, and I am your Front Porch Conservative. We've got a wonderful group of people watching on Rumble. Oh, no. All my Rumble people went away. Where'd you go? Come back. Hey, where'd you go? Yeah, we had a bunch of people watching on Rumble. Daggone you took off on me. I think I scared you off. It'll be the last time I ever mentioned the fact I got a bunch of people watching on Rumble. Man, bunch of fraidy cats. Jeez. But we have some of our regulars who attend our brunch on the porch. We got Leanne. We got Up in Connecticut. We got Larry. We got, who else is in here this morning? If you haven't shouted out yet, or you're lurking, feel free to drop a comment. But yeah, we got some of our regulars. We're glad to have them. And I want to touch on something else, because there's been some updated information that's come out since all of this got started. And I don't know if you guys saw this headline last night, but I'll start from right here. This is from Breitbart. New York appeals court overturns judge lets Trump keep businesses for now. Article written by Jordan Dixon Hamilton and Joel Pollack. An appeals court in New York ruled Friday that former President Donald Trump and his family could keep their New York properties and business certificates for now. In a statement published by Trump's son Eric, the Trump Organization thanked the appellate division for staying a decision last month by Judge Arthur Engoron. More like Arthur Moron, but okay. Anyway, the former president could potentially lose control of all of his businesses and properties in New York if New York Attorney General Letitia James' $250 million civil fraud case is successful. James's lawsuit, which names Trump, his two adult sons, two employees, and the Trump Organization, alleged they, quote, engaged in numerous acts of fraud and misrepresentation by overvaluing at least 23 commercial properties for at least 1 decade. The case is being heard in a bench trial, meaning Judge Arthur Engoron will have the final decision on whether Trump and his co-defendants are liable and what damages, if any, they must pay. James's trial against Trump began Monday, but Engoron already concluded James proved her case before Trump's attorneys could mount their defense. Yeah, that's really fair justice. In a rare summary judgment, Engoron found Trump and his co-defendants were liable for fraud. So there's that piece of news. Apparently, the New York Appeals Court has overturned the judge on this case. Now, I want to briefly touch on this. And I guess the best way for me to do this, I'm going to play some quotes from a live stream that Viva Fry and Robert Barnes do on Sunday night called Law for the People. because some of these quotes are just absolutely, I think they pretty well sum up what a lot of us are already thinking about this. So I'm going to start with the first one. Give me just 1 second here. And I want you to listen to this, because talk about framing the issue correctly. This will do it.
I mean, really, it's these dangerous state laws that linger on the books that give the state the right to bring suit without any finding that the state itself has ever been defrauded. I mean, it shows you what a joke standing doctrine is. You know, they don't allow the vaccine injured to sue because somehow they don't have standing. But the not just the immunity laws, we challenge the FDA. Oh, no, you don't have standing. But if you've not been defrauded a penny, nickel, dime, or dollar, you have no complaining victim, the state has lost no money. In fact, the state has gained money. Then you get to sue and destroy someone's business. So there were two aspects that were absurd about this. The other aspect is they didn't just sue the Trump organization. They sued Trump and his kids. I mean, his kids had nothing to do with this. Eric Trump is part of this judgment. I mean, Donald Trump Jr. is part of it. It's utter, and they knew that the kids had nothing to do with it. It's pure retaliation. As Carl Benjamin said, former Sargon of Akkad from the social media part of the Lotus Eaters podcast, when he was on Tim Pool, he's like, you don't have a country anymore.
That's some pretty heavy stuff. Now, I want to play 2 more clips, because these, again, I think really kind of reveal what all this is about. So take a listen to this. This next one is very interesting as well.
The idea that a bunch of the world's most sophisticated banks lent money without knowing what the value of the Trump brand is utterly preposterous. Just that by itself, they could not have been defrauded. They never claimed to have been defrauded. No, not an attempt to defraud, not an existence of defraud, because they will have had their own. These were massive deals. They would have had their own independent appraisers, their own independent brand assessors.
And I'm going to play one more here, because, like I said, these, you really want to feel for what's going on here. This last one's really good. So hang on, folks, and take a listen to this.
That they can establish this precedent. You can defraud nobody. You can have done one of the most sophisticated business deals in the history of man. You're talking about deals in the 8 figures, deals in the 9 figures. The idea they didn't know. I mean, Trump had gone through a bankruptcy before. You don't think the banks didn't know exactly the value of the loan, the value, the likelihood of paying back that loan? That's utterly ludicrous.
Well,
okay, let's get into this. This trial up in New York City is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. And I'm speaking with a certain amount of experience to this, because in a former lifetime, I used to work in the banking industry, not on the commercial banking side, but on the retail banking side, when you come in and look for a car loan or a home equity loan, et cetera. But let's just focus on the question of home equity loans for a second, okay? There is no way in the world that any bank that I would have worked for, then or now, would loan money to someone if they come in and tell me my house is worth $100,000 and I owe not a dime on it. Because there are 2 things that would have been done automatically before we ever cut you a check. Number 1, we're going to pull the title report to find out if there are any liens against the property. Translation, you have a mortgage that you neglected to tell us about. And number 2, and most importantly, we're going to go appraise the property. We're going to find out if this house is indeed worth $100,000. And I will tell you right now, there were moments over the years when I most certainly lost some loan applications because the value of the collateral did not match what I was being told. How did we know that? We went out and we actually appraised the property. Now, let's move that forward to this. And I want you to think about the craziness that's involved in this case that the Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, is bringing against Trump and the Trump Organization. And Trump's 2 sons, by the way, which have nothing to do with this. Donald Trump walks into a commercial bank. Donald Trump wants to take out a commercial loan. Donald Trump offers up X certain amounts of property to be the collateral that secures the loans. The banks go out and appraise the said property or properties in question. They determine that the properties are worth the amount of the loan that Donald Trump is requesting. Banks cut the checks to Donald Trump's organization. Trump pays back these loans with interest. So the bank is making a profit on the transaction. The state of New York is taxing the banks and their profits, and the state of New York is making money off of the transaction. Okay? Now, I'm no lawyer, but even in my own common sense, I know that in order for there to be a lawsuit where one party claims to have been injured by another, there has to be an injury. Ladies and gentlemen, can someone please explain to me where is the injury in all of this? If the banks were paid back their money with interest, if the insurance companies who were involved in this transaction did not have to pay out any claims to anyone because of misvaluation of property, if the state of New York made money in tax revenue off of the banks who made money off of the transaction that they did with Donald Trump, where is the injured party to bring forth this suit? Where? Nobody's been harmed. Nobody's been injured. But the state of New York, oh, well, he's not allowed to do this. Well, no one's complaining. Where's the injury? I don't know. Yet the state of New York is able to bring, I tell you what, when this is over, somebody, and Trump ought to do it, or somebody ought to do it, ought to bring suit against the state of New York on violation that this law is unconstitutional. Because there's a really good case to be made. This law shouldn't even be on the books. So, that. So, side note. Hello, Mark. How you doing? Glad to have you here this morning. Number 21, Missouri plays number 23, LSU. 11 a.m. Central Standard Time in Columbia. Ooh, that's going to be a good game. Be a good one. So, yeah, this case with Trump is absolutely absurd. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. It's one more form of lawfare against a former president of the United States. And this time, they're trying to take away his businesses that he has worked 40 or 50 years of his life to build. Because somebody doesn't like his politics. Let that sink in 2023 America. So, well, that's everything I've got by way of regular order of business. Now we get to the section of the show known as HodgePodge Stew. And Larry kind of got me to jump the gun on a couple of stories I was going to talk about in HodgePodge Stew earlier, where I brought up the quote from Hillary Clinton about how we all need to be reprogrammed or deprogrammed. People who are supporters of America first and make America great again. And then on the fact that the FBI is targeting Trump supporters. Not my words, by the way. That's from Newsweek. But there is one other story in HodgePodge Stew that I thought was really interesting. And just the irony of it is just, if the situation that it involved weren't so tragically sad and so blood-boilingly angry, I'd laugh at this. Did you know that the Biden administration now feels that we need to build a border wall? Yeah, they think we need to build a border wall. They think it might be a good idea if we put up a boundary between us and Mexico to keep people out to help control what happens on our southern border. Shocking, I say. Oh, yeah, this is just downright amusing. Take a look at this. I mean, the irony just abounds in all of this. Joe Biden building border wall after calling it, quote, waste of money, not a serious policy solution under Trump. Article written by John Binder. President Joe Biden will build more miles of border wall in South Texas after calling the barriers, quote, a waste of money and not a serious policy solution under former President Donald Trump. This week, Biden's Department of Homeland Security announced the construction of about 20 miles of border wall in Starr County, Texas, in which crosses Tamaulipas, Mexico. Quote, the United States Border Patrol's Rio Grande Valley sector is an area of high illegal entry, said DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas in a federal notice. As of early August 2023, Border Patrol had encountered over 245,000 such entrants attempting to enter the United States between the ports of entry in the Rio Grande Valley sector in fiscal year 2023. Therefore, I must use my authority under Section 102 of the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigration Responsibility Act of 96 to install additional physical barriers and roads in the Rio Grande Valley sector. They finally decided to build a border wall or add on to it. Okay. Now, that headline was from Thursday. Okay. I want you to listen next to Alexander Mayorkas, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary himself. This is a 45-second clip. Now, keep in mind, he has said, we've got a problem in the Rio Grande Valley sector of the border. Now, check this out. You want some serious, I didn't say that commentary? Try this on for size.
I want to address today's reporting relating to a border wall and be absolutely clear. There is no new administration policy with respect to the border wall. Allow me to repeat that. There is no new administration policy with respect to the border wall. From day one, this administration has made clear that a border wall is not the answer. That remains our position, and our position has never wavered. The language in the Federal Register notice is being taken out of context, and it does not signify any change in policy whatsoever.
Oh, so he's being taken out of context, is it? Is that what it is? He's being taken out of context. I'm sorry. Forgive me here. Let me read that again just to make sure. Therefore, I must see. Border Patrol has encountered 245 such entrants attempting to enter the United States between the ports of entry in the Rio Grande Valley sector in fiscal year 2023. Therefore, I must use my authority under Section 102 of the Act to install additional physical barriers. Who's taking this out of context? Well, we don't believe, we're not changing policy. Well, then what the hell do you call it? Your boss just sat there. He's been sitting there for 3 or 4 years saying it's a waste of money. It's not effective, yada, yada, yada. And now you're building 20 more miles of wall. I'd call that a reversal of policy under any normal circumstance. Just incredible. But that, and you want to know one more thing that'll blow your mind about all this? Try this on for size. Try this. Headline from the Gateway Pundit. Biden regime decides to build border wall segment 2 months. Now get ready to get your blood pressure up because here it comes. 2 months after they sold all of the Trump border parts worth $300 million. And they sold all that equipment for $2 million. Let me read that again. Biden regime decides to build border wall segment 2 months after they sold all of the Trump border parts worth $300 million for $2 million. $300 million worth of border wall equipment, wall, parts, cement, whatever, and they sold it for $2 million. I can't, I mean, I don't have a calculator in front of me, otherwise I'd do it myself, but I'd love to know what percentage 2 million is of $300 million. They have ever since January 20th of 2021, the barriers, the boundaries, everything is there. All they had to do was just finish it. They let it set, and then 2 months ago, they sold $300 million worth of equipment for $2 million. And now we're going to have to appropriate more money and spend it to build this 20 miles worth of wall and cost the taxpayers even more money. And it's not even the cost of the taxpayers that pisses me off about the whole thing. It's just you're just grotesque hypocrisy. The grotesque waste. The absolute flooding of the country of illegal immigrants. And I have why? Why now all of a sudden? Why now all of a sudden is this a problem? And don't give me the crap about we've had 245,000 people cross, so far through the Rio Grande Valley. I'll tell you why all this is being done. I'll tell you exactly why it's being done. Resentment over Biden's border crisis growing in blue Massachusetts. I'm not going to bother reading the article, but I will make a valid point. The only reason that Biden actually now cares about what's going on at the southern border is two things. One, Democrat mayors like Eric Adams and Brandon Johnson of Chicago and Karen Bass of Los Angeles and others are getting up in his grill saying, you've got to do something about this. You've got to stop this. We can't afford it. Now it's getting to the point that the people of New York City and Chicago and LA, now it's inconveniencing them. Lay aside the fact that Americans have now been suffering under this for 3 years of this wide open invasion. Lay aside the fact that God knows how much fentanyl has been flowing into cities and towns across this country. Lay aside the fact that violence is being done upon citizens of this nation by illegal immigrants. No, that wasn't the reason why Biden felt like he needed to do something about it. It's when the elite in New York City and Chicago and all these other places around the country, when they're inconvenienced, when their resources are being tapped, when it's crime in their areas, that is when Biden felt like he had to do something about it, when it inconvenienced the establishment. And frankly, with all due respect to Eric Adams, Brandon Johnson, Karen Bass, or governors Kathy Hochul of New York or J.D. Pritzker of Illinois or whoever, no. I mean, I'm welcome to the party. Glad you're here. But it seems just a little bit too little too late. And frankly, what you're doing is not really helping matters. You ought to be suing the federal government. You ought to be joining arm in arm with guys like Greg Abbott of Texas and others who are trying to fight this thing. You may not agree with them politically, and if you want to have your political disagreements after it's all said and done, that's perfectly fine. I respect that. I expect that to happen. But when it comes to the sovereignty of this nation and the security of its citizens, that shouldn't be a Democrat or Republican issue. That shouldn't be, oh, you're in a red state, I'm in a blue state. Oh, you're in a red city, I'm in a blue city. No. That ought to be everybody's problem. You want to have knockdown, drag out political fights after it's all said and done? Fine. I'll meet you in the political ring and we can just have at it. But when it comes to making sure that the country is safe, that should cross all party lines, should cross all ideological lines, and we ought to just man up and do it. But it only became a problem for some folks out there when it got into their neighborhoods and affected their kids and affected their crime statistics and started sapping their resources. That's why Biden's got to do it. And the other reason is he's got a re-election next year. He actually looked like he's doing something. So there you go. Well, anyway, folks, that's what I've got for Front Porch Brunch, and it has been a fun time as always. It's about 15 minutes after 11, which means kickoff has already taken place. So, Mark, I'll let you get to your TV set, dude, if you're not already in front of it already. As always, you guys have been absolutely awesome and wonderful. Again, and I say this every week, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, you guys are the best audience on the internet. You subscribe to my channel. You continue to come back here. You put up with my boomering. So I love you guys. I genuinely do. I'm so glad to have spent part of Saturday morning with you. We'll be back next week with new videos. We'll be back next Saturday morning for more Front Porch Brunch. In the meanwhile, I want you guys to go out there. I want you to have fun. I'm going to try and line up a guest for chatting on the porch this week. We had Forest Mommy, and that was a load of fun. Hang on. Oh, I'm not going to. Rumor has it, Biden has approved emergency $6 billion for Israel. Okay. I'll check that out. I'll see what I can find out about that. Thank you for the heads up, because that's definitely a continuing story we're going to be looking at, in the days ahead. And prayers for the people of Israel and for the Palestinians. Violence begets violence, and there are innocents on both sides who get hurt. So I hope that peace comes to the land of Israel, and the Palestinians and Israelis can learn how to live at peace. Yeah, Biden's definitely playing both sides, and he is a jerk, among other things. But yeah, you guys are awesome as always. Thank you for being here. We'll be back next Saturday morning, and we'll be back throughout the week, so keep your eyes open for videos. Please continue to spread the word around about the channel. We have grown so much in such a very short amount of time, and I want to keep that going. And I keep promising you, and I do, and I'll always try to. I'll always keep trying to improve the product that I bring, make it interesting, bring information maybe you're not hearing about, and, we'll have a lot of fun together as we look at everything. So remember, in the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, it is faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money. We'll see you next weekend.